Hello, BookTube. All right, this is part 2 of our Columbus Day Q&A. Those of you who are coming to this video without having seen the first one, I called for a bunch of questions for Columbus Day because I'm not going to get any mail. And I have the best subscribers in the world, and they came through. So we're going through those questions. This is part 2 because there are more questions than I thought there would be. So our next one up is Miss April Vincent. What's the first book you remember loving? How have your reading tastes changed throughout your life? Do you ever listen to audiobooks? Why or why not? Finally, how does Malin feel about Frida? Let's go through these in order. The first book I remember loving is Homer's Iliad, and that love has never dimmed. It's just fantastic. Brutal, hot, fierce, terrifying, but I love it. Absolutely love it. Have your reading tastes changed throughout your life? I would hope they have. When I was much younger, I had the reading characteristics that all young people have. I was doctrinaire and provincial, and I'd like to think that as time has moved on, of course, you keep preferences and opinions, but I'd like to think that I've grown more flexible in what I'll give a chance, in what I'll try, and in also where the places where I will find something that I think is interesting. I'd like to think that has continued to expand as I continue to read. I hope so. I don't ever listen to audiobooks. No. I've tried, I tried it first years ago, and then I tried again when I saw how incredibly popular they were on BookTube, but it's just not for me. First of all, they're too slow. Even when you speed them up, they're too slow. And second, especially if it's fiction, I don't want to. I will decide what Lizzie Bennet sounds like. It's so personal. I don't want an audio version of any book to tell me what a character sounds like. I also don't want the audiobook director or the actors involved to decide for me the reading of a line. Maybe it's just I have a bit of a theater background. Maybe that's made me extra sensitive, but it's just one way to read, for instance, a passage of dialogue. I want to decide how that dialogue sounds. So it just hasn't worked for me. And how does Malin feel about Lucy? Those of you who may be new to the channel, Malin is my old dog. She's 15 years old. She's dying, and she grew up, spent her whole life with my fat little basset hound Lucy, who died in the spring. It was not Malin's choice to get a puppy. The puppy came to me, and it was me or the pound, and I couldn't countenance that. So she's been very good. She's been very tolerant. She, of course, doesn't like the puppy. Puppies are kind of obnoxious. She would, I think, probably have preferred to just coast in peace and quiet alone here. I've worked really hard in the last 3 weeks to make sure that the puppy does not inconvenience her in any way. So I'm hoping that has minimized things. But in terms of what she thinks about the puppy, she tries not to. She pretty much totally ignores a little terror. Let's see here. Gary M. Says, FedEx and UPS should be delivering on Monday, so it might not be a total washout. Okay. Well, if UPS is delivering today, then it won't be a total washout. I hope you're right about that. And his question is, you often say you were raised by dogs. Care to elaborate? Well, I had parents, of course, and I had siblings. But most of my formative time, most of my voluntary time, most of my play time, most of my learn about the world time was spent in the company of dogs, not people, not humans. It's just fell through the cracks. That's all. Other people needed more attention than I did, wanted more attention than I did. Most of the happy times, most of the learning times, most of the adventures, most of those took place in the company of dogs, not humans, and I loved it. I often used to say I wouldn't trade my childhood playmates for anybody. So, Paraquito says, if you like restoration drama, please talk about some of your favorite plays. Chant us a poem. Thanks, Steve, for being with us. Oh, isn't that nice? Thank you for being with me. I don't know what I'd do without this company in my life. As far as restoration drama goes, you're asking me some of my favorites. If you've been watching my 15,751 videos, you're going to know the answer to this question already. It's John Dryden, who I think is the single greatest English language dramatist who is currently unknown, unread, unstudied. He's I think the best unknown dramatist, the best unknown literary critic, and the best unknown poet. He's forgotten, and that's a terrible shame because he was tremendously talented in everything that he did. You could live a long life right in the heart of a bustling metropolis and never see a John Dryden play put on stage. That's a terrible shame. I don't think there are any actors alive today who can even speak him. It's just terrible. I'm not going to chant you a poem, thank you. This is supposed to be a reward for the rest of you, not punishment. but I highly recommend John Dryden. I know that's a lost cause in the 21st century, but I do. Robert Foch says, one more question, please. Are you familiar with Michael Silverblatt? He does the Book Beat radio program on KCRW in Los Angeles. I am not familiar with him, no. And you can be sure that when this video is over, I'm going to make myself familiar with him. I assume from your question that he's good. And I'm always up for that. I want more and more voices. So, Orthia NZ, how is your own book project going? What's next to tick off the list? I'd be interested to know which book you decide to go with and why. Same ponders apply for your website. Well, in terms of the website, I have a marvel in the works. And in terms of writing, there are two things on the horizon. One is NaNoWriMo, which is right around the corner, and yet I don't have a project for NaNoWriMo yet. And so I need to do that. I need to come up with a project for NaNoWriMo right away. And in the new year, there is a book that I'm going to write from start to finish. I've decided that it's going to be nonfiction, a long work of nonfiction, and I'm going to be telling you all about it because I want BookTube along for that journey, every step of it. Let's see here. Marelli Kemp says, I'd be interested in learning more about the abdication crisis and specifically Wallace Simpson. Do you know anything about, do you want recommendations? Do you know anything about the new biography coming out in February? I haven't read the new biography coming out in February, but as far as recommendations go, I would not recommend reading a biography of Wallace Simpson. There's no point to it. Why learn the minutiae of her grasping, petty, copper-plated, pointless life when you can read all you need to know about her in a good history of either her husband or the abdication crisis in general? There are a whole bunch of great histories of that. I can leave some annotations down below, but there's a big new study of the abdication crisis coming out next year, sometime. I think it's next year. I read Unbound Galley pages, but I don't think they were even part of a complete manuscript yet. But I think the work is in hand. I think, and that I'll be dying to read that and review it. Let's see here. Malik Al-Rajab. I didn't massacre that. I was wondering if you could share your story of becoming the reader you are. A long, detailed 50-plus minute video. You people are so bad for me. You are the ultimate reader for many of us, the reader we wish we to be. Well, that's very nice of you to say, but keep in mind, a large part of the reason that I am that is because I don't do anything else. And I think you'd be too harsh on yourself if you don't be too harsh on yourself. Most of you do have all sorts of really important, really good, really valuable parts to your life that I don't have. And I'm in the place of those parts I have filled completely with reading. That's the only reason that I seem more focused on it than the rest of you. Let's see here. So far we know about the great teacher who changed your life, but you keep telling us so little about him. And the process of how can anyone plant the seed of reading in someone's mind like he did. Your story with the Jesuits is a well-kept secret, although you hinted that they had so much to do with your reading superpowers. Are you saving the nitty-gritty stuff for an ongoing memoir project? No, I'm not trying to be a tease. Of course, the Jesuits helped a lot. They shaped minds. They still do today. They shape minds into muscles. They take great pride in doing it. As for my individual teacher, it's not on the surface an extraordinary story to tell. I did him a favor, and in exchange he gave me the only thing he could, the only thing that he cared about, which was a love of books, a love of reading, and had no idea, neither he did nor I did, the size and preciousness of that gift. He just changed my life completely. So I don't mean to be coy about him. He's long gone, but I owe him more than I could ever repay anyone. uh, Lara Croft says, what nonfiction books would you recommend about the Mongol Empire? Uh, what is a good biography of Edgar Allan Poe? What are your favorite Latin American writers? Well, the Mongol Empire, Peter Jackson has written a couple of books that are his latest one was it wasn't specifically about the Mongol Empire. It was a big book about the Mongols encountering expansionist Islam and the world of expansionist Islam. And it was utterly fascinating as a reflection on both those two subjects. That was one that I read and reviewed just recently. There have been a whole bunch of others. There none that I don't really know the subject well enough to have a favorite. But there, any introductory overview will get you there. will get you to a place to start. A good biography of Edgar Allan Poe. There have been many, many. I still myself prefer Ken Silverman's book, which I'll try to remember to link it down below. It's a tremendously inviting Poe biography. And a favorite Latin American writer, probably Mario Vargas Llosa. Book by book, if I had to weigh out who has pleased me the most, it would probably be him. Let's see here. Andrew B says, why do you write in books when you know that it devalues the book significantly? Most book writers refer to this as defacing a book. Yes, I know they do, but I can't help it. I want my notes where I can find them. I write in books because I'm deeply involved when I'm reading. Too involved, usually, for a notebook on the side or for a reading journal when I'm done of my impressions or anything like that. I want to be able to pick a book off the shelf that I'm looking at and say, okay, it was in here that there was a really good quote about Madame de Staël. Well, if I can either go to the index and backtrack all the parts where she's mentioned in order to find it, or I can just thumb through the thing until I see where I underlined the quote. And for me, just as a working reference library, it's far easier to do the second than the first. It's become so second nature to me that I don't think I could stop. I also do it with ebooks. It's just as easy to annotate an ebook. In fact, it's easier and more effective to annotate an ebook, and I annotate the heck out of them. I know that some people consider it defacing a book, but I don't. Brainless highlighting is defacing a book. Showing that you were there, reacting to quotes, underlining things that are really good, maybe putting annotations. This reminded me of, but I thought you said, that sort of thing is a record that you were in the book. And I have many, many books on my shelves that have those kinds of annotations from people who are long gone, and I treasure it for that. It means I'm going through it too. I don't consider it defacing a book. Rusty Dogs says, what is the good Murakami and the bad Murakami? That was a little joke I did. And it ruffled a couple of feathers. Any opinion on independent bookstores or the book-selling business in general? Oh my God. You enjoy biography and autobiography. I'm certain your own autobiography would make excellent reading. Will you write one? I have tons and tons of thoughts on the book-selling industry in general. Oh my God. I was in it forever and ever. I'm deeply connected with it now. As far as independent bookstores go, I love them, although I'm a bit spoiled because the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston is not only a place where I've been going for decades, but it also has $1, $3, and $5 bargain carts outside that are really good. It's not junk like you often get at the dollar carts outside the Strand in New York City. It's also vigorously renewed. It's refreshed all the time. So it's not the same things going through the rain and the snow and getting worse and worse as every day goes on. That spoils you when that's your used bookstore. That spoils you for any place else. So sometimes I will go to a used bookstore, out in Western Mass or in Southern New Hampshire or something like that, and you come across this place that has no traffic, obviously has no customers, obviously has no stock turnover, and has ruinously high prices, and you feel sorry that you're going to walk out empty-handed. And the good Murakami and the bad Murakami was a joke on my part, because I've never been really all that impressed with Haruki Murakami, and I love Ryu Murakami, so I often call him that. But I know that Haruki Murakami has an entire world full of fans, so I meant it kind of in a joking way. I'm going to watch the time here again. Nareen Lone says, this is not really a Q&A, but I was wondering if you could do a recommendation of your favorite love stories. Well, that's a great idea. I can do a top 5 favorite love stories. I have to give it some thought. Make sure they aren't all 2,000 years old. Elena Macridina, hello, says, Helena O'Brien and Through the Enchanted Portal would like to hear that ostrich story, please. Why? I didn't think I'd even mention my ostrich story. I actually have 2 ostrich stories. They're too long to tell in a video that has other things going on in it. But suffice it to say, ostriches are not pleasant animals. They really aren't. You be around one long enough, and you will be very glad that for a minute there in human history, there was a knife edge, where the dominance of the landmass in the millennia after the dinosaurs could have gone either to giant flightless birds, some of which were twice the size and mass of an ostrich, or humans, and humans won. And you only have to spend a little time with a giant flightless bird, be it an ostrich or a ray or anything else, to realize how good a thing that is. Let's see here. David Walsh says, how about a tag covering your secrets for effective reading? Well, I mentioned this in the last video. There really aren't any secrets. It's just a muscle. Concentrate completely. Don't subvocalize. Don't make it an add-on to whatever else you're doing, and do a lot of it. And if you do all that, the muscle that is your reading will strengthen. It just will. There's no way that it won't. If it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. Let's see here. Linda De Pasquale says, if there were such a thing as reincarnation and you could remember and use the knowledge of this life to influence the next, what would you like to do with a future life? I wouldn't do anything. I don't even see how the knowledge of one life could influence the next. Who knows where I'd end up? Would I know me as a baby? Would I be able to place myself in a wealthy family? I don't have any idea. Fortunately, I don't believe in any such nonsense, so I don't have to worry about it. Oh my God! Look at all these questions. All right, we'll stop this and we'll go to part 3. Thank you, BookTube.